Good evening. Welcome to the Board of Supervisors business meeting, Thursday, March 6, 2025, 6 p.m. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Just of note, the meeting is being live streamed via YouTube for viewing only. The meeting will be video recorded for posting on the township website if you need to look at it after tonight. A video camera has been installed in the township auditorium for security purposes. Next is Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Chair Darby?
Here.
Vice Chair Charles?
Here.
Supervisor McFarland?
Here.
Supervisor Knights?
Here.
Supervisor Nufagleis?
Here.
And our student representative, Rasika Sivakumar.
Here.
Everyone's here?
Great. Prior to this meeting, we held an executive session to discuss personnel matters, litigation, and land acquisition. Just a quick update in regards to the Hot Topics newsletter. That should be going out in the mail to the township residents next week. Also, March is Women's History Month. This month, we highlight the contributions women have made in U.S. history and presently. So I'd like to give a shout out to my colleagues here, Vice Chair Charles and Supervisor Nufagleis. So thank you. Next, we have.
Likewise.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have our student representative report. Rasika?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So from Feb 27th to March 1st, Methacton High School showcased its production of the musical Guys and Dolls. The show was well received and was put together by nearly 90 Methacton students. On Tuesday, the 4th, the high school hosted its annual Spring Blood Drive, partnered with the American Red Cross, collecting over 80 units of blood, as well as red blood cells. And K through 4 will have early dismissal on March 14th for In-Service Day. Thank you.
Thank you, Rasika. And we have a celebrity amongst us, Rasika. So we'd like to tell you congratulations on winning a prestigious Child Artist Award for your vocal concert performance during the International Music season in India this past December. Wish I was there with you. Rasika was honored for her achievement in Carnatic, if I'm mispronouncing, please correct me, music, a classical music style from South India centered around the voice. So I won't ask you to sing here tonight, but maybe another time. But congratulations. You're welcome. And I like the orange, favorite color. So yes, that's a great picture. All right. Next, we have citizen commendations, and we have Chief Michael Jackson.
There it is. Good evening. So far too often, we see videos of bystanders who are watching tragic events unfold before them, and they make different decisions. Some may walk away, some may run, others may record the incident as it unfolds. Whatever the case may be, the victims are left to kind of fend for themselves. Tonight we recognize two gentlemen, two complete strangers, who saw a mother and her young 5-year-old daughter being viciously attacked by a large dog. Without hesitation, these two gentlemen leapt into action, put themselves into harm's way, and were able to remove this dog from this violent encounter. Without a doubt, their actions saved this woman and her child from more serious injury. They were severely injured, but without a doubt, their actions were crucial to them escaping more harm and potentially even worse, death. So I am honored to present to you tonight citizens' commendations for Mr. Dante Hunter and Mr. Brian Lloyd. Come on up, Ray. So they are both being awarded citizens' commendations. The citation reads as follows. On December 14th, 2024, at 11:54 a.m., Lower Providence Township police officers were dispatched to the 100 block at Summit Avenue for a dog bite. Upon arrival, officers observed Brian C. Lloyd, holding a white and tan pit bull, and Dante Hunter standing with the victims, a mother and her 5-year-old daughter. The investigation determined that while walking the dog, which belonged to a family friend, the child fell off the bicycle. The mother reached down to her sister child, and both were viciously attacked by the dog. Dante Hunter, who was working in the area, drove past and observed the attack. Without hesitation, he exited his vehicle and intervened. While attempting to restrain the dog, another passing motorist, Brian Lloyd, exited his vehicle and assisted. Together, Hunter and Lloyd were able to stop the attack and secure the animal. Hunter immediately called 911 and summoned emergency services, including police, fire, and emergency medical personnel. The adult victim sustained injuries to her arm, hands, and leg. The juvenile victim suffered a serious injury to her upper left arm. Both victims were transported to Einstein Medical Hospital and treated for their injuries. As a result of the selfless and courageous actions of Dante Hunter and Brian Lloyd, both victims escaped more serious injuries and were able to quickly receive medical attention. Your actions in this incident represent an outstanding accomplishment in the protection and preservation of life. As a result, you are being awarded a citizen's commendation in conformance with General Order 303 on this 6th day of March, 2025. Brian, congratulations. Lastly, and I don't think she's here, the mother that was involved in this incident? No, she is not. Unfortunately, neither she nor the child could be here tonight, but I have spoken to them, and they are extremely appreciative of the efforts that day. So I want to congratulate and thank you both for what you did on that day. There's no doubt in my mind that you saved that mother and that child from more serious injury or potentially even worse. So thank you very much and congratulations. Hey, hold on. Does family want to come up and get a picture? Come on up. We'll start with Brian first. Yep. Move over here. And then Dante will grab a picture. Never wake a sleeping baby.
That was great. Thank you, Chief, for letting us know. All right, next up, we have a special presentation by the Lower Providence Fire Department Chief Jim Lentz and President Dan Foreman. So please approach the podium. I'd like to hear about all the wonderful things that you're doing for the township and beyond.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. For those of you present this evening that don't know me, my name is Jim Lentz, and I have the privilege to serve as the fire chief here in Lower Providence Township. With me this evening is our fire company president, Dan Furman, along with Battalion Chief Alex Davis. Just real quick, want to point out I appreciate the help and attentiveness from Dan and Alex the last couple weeks in trying to prepare this presentation. At the same time, they work incredibly busy jobs as well, and kind of went out of their way to get here tonight, and we appreciate them. And we want to wish Alex a happy birthday. That said, so in all reality, this is a biannual or a report. It's not annual like it had said in the first slide. We're about a year and a half or 2 years behind, and we apologize for that, but I know you folks are incredibly busy, and we're incredibly busy as well. So here we are today. We kind of just decided to provide you a screenshot of what's happening, not too in-depth, just to give you some updates. To be honest with you, we have no bad news to report. Everything is positive and on the up and up. When you take a look at a lot of the other organizations similar to ours around the Commonwealth, unfortunately, they can't all report as well. So thanks to your support and our partnership and our teamwork, quite frankly, things are going phenomenal, and you're going to see some of those things this evening. Again, we are, for those of you that don't know, a 501c3. We remain a 100% volunteer organization. We rely on the community and our township for financial support to make ends meet. And most of the information we're going to provide you tonight is just from, quite frankly, going through our calendars to see what we did the last 2 years, and as well as our database, which is kind of in step with the Montgomery County Communication Center for our responses and our times and our activities. At this point, I'm going to bring Dan Furman, President Dan Furman, forward to just give you a little bit of a glimpse on our finances.
Hi, everyone. As you can see here, we'll go through a couple things with our finances. So first thing, every year we complete our 990 and submit it to you guys for your review. The last ones that were submitted were for fiscal year 22 and 23. If you're not aware, our fire company runs on a fiscal basis around that starts July 1st and ends June 30th. So that's why it's reported here that the last reported 990 was for 23. The next thing I'll go over are revenues for this past year. Township allotment of 275. Township also provided help with our stipend program for an additional 143,000. We did a great job over the last couple years in obtaining grants, whether it be through FEMA, through support from Representative Joe Webster. So this past year, we were able to obtain $382,000 worth of grants. The next line item is a big part of what the public does for us, and this is through our fund drive and other donations. We were able to obtain an additional $103,000, and the last line item is any interest that we would have earned, and also our annual fair that helped bring in an additional $115,000. And then through that process, we were able to have revenues of over $1 million, but as you'll see, we also had expenses of $966,000. So yes, we did obtain a lot, but we needed that money to help whether it be through building renovations that we did, trainings, recruitment and retention was another big line item. So yes, we do get a lot of money in, but we also need to spend a lot of it as well, just to keep up to date with everything. Some fiscal challenges that we're going to have moving forward is, as you well know, cost of eggs increase, but also the cost of all the equipment that we need to provide adequate service increases as well. That includes the firefighter gear that we wear, all the equipment that we need to put on our trucks, and also apparatus that we need to purchase. Next slide, please. And along with our fire company, we also have what we call the Firefighter Relief Association. What this does is every year the state will allocate funds and then disperse it to all the various relief associations. So this past year, we obtained 197 through the Relief Association. And what we use this money for, because it's very strict guidelines of what we can spend the money on, a lot of times we'll use that to help pay our insurance and also any loans that we take out to purchase our fire apparatus. So that's where all the spending that we do out of this account comes from. And just a couple highlights here. We do have a couple outstanding loans on our rescue and tower trucks of around $1.3 million. In a couple months, we will be entering into another loan for a new engine of around $600,000. And also, on top of the 990s that we provide you guys, we also have state audits that are done for the Relief Association. They came out last year to catch up. They were a little behind due to COVID, but they were able to catch up, and every couple years they'll come back and go through the next couple years of audits for that. So our next audit should be around 2025. Jim? Thank you.
Anybody have any questions or comments at this point? Go ahead, Mr. Knights.
Yeah, Chief Lentz, and thank you for the presentation. Just a question on the investments on that previous slide.
Sure.
Is that like cash investments, or is that the value of the equipment, or something similar?
That's the value of cash investments.
Okay. That's your reserve fund, I guess?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So, a lot of times, for the investments, we could take that money out and use that to pay for new apparatus. But working with our financial advisor, the investments that we do have the money in is making a lot better return than we're getting with our loans. Because the big thing with some of the loans that we get, for one apparatus, we'll normally try and split it into two separate loans. One loan we can get through the state it's around a 2% loan, and then the remaining we'll get from a bank institution, and the rates for those we are able to lock in. So that's why we're able to leave that money in those investment accounts. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think that's prudent, to do so.
Yep.
I have just a quick clarifier. That total number, though, that's specific to the relief fund, right? That's not your, normal operating account.
Yes, that is specific to the relief fund.
So that you are limited in how you can spend that.
Correct. And the limitations are more for apparatus, for various equipment. But anything that you spend with relief, whenever the auditor comes to the door, you need to be able to show everything that you spent out of that account.
And that money that has built up over time is all a result of money that you've received from the state and the interest on the investments.
Correct. Yes.
And then in turn, those funds are utilized to pay down the loans, obviously. Any more questions or comments at this point? Feel free to just catch my attention as we move forward. So that said, I'm not going to read the slide to you. A couple things I wanted to point out. We're going to get into a little bit more in depth in a couple minutes, but Some of you were not here in 2022 when we did our last, or 23 when we did our last presentation. But our staffing numbers, our active rosters up quite a bit, and we're kind of proud of that. We're going to show you a little bit more on that here momentarily. But at the same time, other than that, if you just want to, this just kind of outlines the demographics of the township, which you're familiar with, as well as our apparatus and our stations. We do currently still have a fire station in Audubon, as well as our main station in Eagleville. And we're currently staffed with about four accessory vehicles and 5 suppression or rescue vehicles between those 2 firehouses. So what we did on this slide is we compared 2023 to 2024. And there's just a couple things I wanted to just point out or explain. One is there's a remarkable bump in call volume, which is kind of interesting. I was kind of looking at that today in the last couple of days, just wondering where it's all coming from. But that said, when you look down the list, our mutual aid received and our mutual aid that we're providing is kind of flat. It's kind of neutral. It's kind of staying the same. At the same time, we are trying to list the property at risk and the property loss anytime there's a remarkable incident. And those numbers are based on the categories in which the federal government provides us for categorizing fire calls. So essentially what happens is if there's a real fire, the categories light up to go ahead and enter the value of the property and any value that might be lost. And we try to get that information as accurate as possible. Sometimes we have to guess. We'll typically use the internet to determine what something might be worth, and then we rely on insurance adjusters or contractors to kind of get a guess on what the loss might be to give you folks a realistic screenshot of what's going on out there. That said, the other interesting tidbit is the average personnel per call. Don't ask me why, but that number hasn't moved in 10 years. It's like 8.1, 8.4, 8.3, 8.5. It's all right in that category, and I can't really figure out why when I look at everything. One thing that I think has changed, to our credit, is I think there's actually a couple more, that's an overall of how many people show up, fire police, firefighters, fire officers, and I think in general, the fire police turnout across the board might be a little bit less, and our firefighter turnout's going to be a little bit higher. So believe it or not, that shows a slight improvement. And the reason is because of our mutual aid responses where the fire police aren't attending. So, questions?
Chief Lentz,
Yes.
just real quick, how many volunteer firefighters do you have in your pool?
We have certified 50.
50.
That includes the fire officers.
Okay, great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, one thing I noticed up there, Chief, is that in 2024, the personnel in service were in service for 2,234 hours, which is 400 hours fewer than in 2023. But you had, more calls and trying to reconcile the decrease in hours in service.
Agreed, and I don't know why it says it. I don't know why it reads that way. My instinct is it could very well be accurate. I'm not sure if Chief Davis.
Hurricane.
Was Ida in 23?
21.
21. So I don't have an answer for that. It could just logistically be what it is.
Yep.
Sometimes we'll go out and be out for 5 hours. Other times we'll be out for 5 minutes. So I don't have an answer.
There's also a pretty significant decrease from 23 to 24 in the property loss value. Is that just a function of less severe fires or the quality of the response, or maybe a combination of the two?
So if you look at Mobility Works, which I think was in 2023 on South Trooper Road, that was a massive loss.
Oh, so that jacked your,
Massive loss. Makes sense? And they stopped that fire in its tracks, might I add. Commercial building, well off, cars inside, on lifts, and they stopped the fire in its tracks. It was just the heat and smoke that were present there that just did a tremendous amount of damage. So incident types. So if you look at this, the 2023 and 24 breakdown, most of the categories are very close with the exception of false alarms or false calls. So we look at false alarms or false calls. That includes fire alarms or carbon monoxide alarms that aren't actual fires. They're not malicious alarms. It just indicates that there's not an actual fire in the building. In some cases, it might be smoke from cooking or accidental transmission of a smoke detector from steam, smoke from cooking, whatever else. At the same time, it also includes a malicious alarm or a malfunction. And if you go around the circle there, a good intent call is when someone thinks there's an emergency, but there's really not. Service calls might be water leaks, pipe burst, something out of the ordinary where the public might need general assistance. Hazardous conditions could be electrical fires, wires and trees, things that are out of the norm but may not categorize as a fire. Rescue and emergency services includes actual rescue, vehicle accidents, and when we have to assist the ambulance on occasion. And of course, you have your fire category and your special incident type, which is like heavy winds and hurricane force winds or flooding and so forth. And again, most of the categories are fairly consistent. The false alarms and false calls are up from 28 to 37%. So,
Chief,
yes.
at first, it's a little surprising that the fire company has 17% of their time on fires, right? And you have all this other, and more than 50% is the good intent calls and the false alarms. But in terms of, not compared to fires, but in terms of cost to the fire company, you're sending a truck out, you're getting people out of their homes, and they're going to a site to address that call, which in the end doesn't need it, right?
Yeah,
So
well, yes and no, but go ahead.
No, I just wondered, is there some way that, I mean, you don't have any control over these calls coming in, but.
So, a couple things. One is with our staffing programs, we have people that are dedicated to handle these things when they come in. Sometimes, in more cases than not, recently, they're in station, which is to meet our ultimate goal. We also have the come from home crews. So, while in many cases there's not a legitimate fire, in many cases there are legitimate responses. However, there is ways to control those legitimate responses, and in some cases it might be public education. In other cases, it might be fire code enforcement. In other cases, it might just be overall building maintenance and upkeep. So every particular situation varies. Typically in the township, there's a lot of facilities with a lot of alarm systems, and some of them are aging and some of them aren't. And it comes down to quite frankly, a strong community risk reduction program is where we want to be with that. And that can help lower those numbers. Ultimately, though, with the construction pace, like for instance with the Shannondale building coming out of the ground, what's proposed across the street, the apartments in Collegeville, these numbers are just going to continue to go up.
So I'm just wondering, is in that 50% category between the blue and the yellow, is there a particular area or is there a particular location that is a significant portion of that is like Shannondale? And
So
not pointing at them, but they've got a lot of people.
percentage-wise, I'd have to put it on paper, but I can tell you that Shannondale in 2024 was up. In 2023, the Shannondale at Valley Forge was somewhere around 25 or 27 or 28 incidents. Not necessarily all false incidents. There's legit incidents as well. Most of them are activation of alarms. And in 2024, that went up to 40-something. But I think they're having a problem with some of their systems starting to age, and sometimes they get ghosts in them, and they actually can't figure out why they're going off, why they're actually legitimately doing everything they can to resolve that problem. And they're right on top of things. Other scenarios is Eagleville Hospital. Eagleville Hospital's up from 15 calls in 22 and 23 a year to roughly 25 in 23 and 24. 21, you know what I mean. Yeah. Most recent 2 years, about 25 calls a year. So that's an uptick. Homewood Suites. We've been to Homewood Suites. I lost track constantly. So, but when you compare all those things, Shannondale, there's 15 buildings and 1,500 people. So realistically, yeah, there's some volume there, but that's just what happens. It's just what we do. It's normal activity. So. Does that answer your question?
It does. You named Shannondale and Eagleville Hospital and Homewood Suites, but at least two of these I would think would have, Shannondale could repair their alarm systems so that you did not get those false calls or ghost calls. And I don't know why Homewood Suites would have more than whatever they have, because they should be, this is hotels, right? There should be alarms in every room, and there shouldn't be a reason for a false alarm, I wouldn't think.
So Shannondale's alarms are typically smoke from cooking or burnt food, legitimately burnt food. Shannondale has a system in place where it has to get to a certain point before it goes to the fire department. Multiple devices activated, common areas activated, which makes perfect sense for the system. The fact is that, well, and again, there was some malfunctions in there in 2024. They are on top of everything. They're great partners. They do everything they can. there's just a lot of devices down there. And take note, all those devices that were put in some cases may or may not have been required by code 15, 20 years ago, but required by the township to make it safer. And in turn, now we have to respond to those devices. Homewood Suites. Homewood Suites is a little bit of a different issue. It's a smaller occupancy. There's only 125 units, one building, and the call volume down there is, quite frankly, astronomical.
And it's all, I mean, there's never been a serious fire that you've need to address as a fire company there?
To my knowledge, there's been no, other than cooking mishaps in Homewood Suites in my tenure here. Shannondale's had, we occasionally get an apartment fire at Shannondale, something like that.
Yeah.
Shannondale, Valley Forge of Shannondale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds like Homewood Suites should take a look at their alarm systems. That's costing this fire company a lot of money. I'm done, thanks.
What are most of the calls about Eagle Hospital from, if you know? Sorry to put you on the spot.
Now, I would have to dig into that, and quite frankly, our database is not advanced enough to really narrow it down. I can tell you that in recent years, the malicious alarms have gone up. Literally, people running out the door, pull the alarm, unlocks the door, and they're running down the street. Malicious alarms inside the buildings. Cigarette smoke, which they should not be doing inside, tripping smoke detectors. Anything else, Chief?
Trash cans here and there, some small minor incidents.
Okay. How about the prison? Do you get called to the prison at all?
Never. Literally never. They have their own fire brigade. It's a concrete city. They handle everything themselves internally.
Thanks.
Sure. Anything else on that? With?
Like, as a chief, just, what are the major concerns you have that we might be able to influence?
Well, I think it's important that we continue to maintain a strong team effort in community risk reduction. And I think if there's a particular point of challenge that the township has or the fire company has, we just sit down and discuss it and see what we can do to make it safer for everybody. I mean, not only is our goal to keep our community safe, but keep our firefighters safe. So while we certainly don't risk harm on anybody, activity for the fire department is good to some extent because it gives them opportunities and training. At the same time, putting apparatus on the street at emergency speed puts everybody at risk. So you have to kind of come up with a recipe there to balance that. And that, again, is a strong community risk reduction program. It's kind of both sides of the fence. Mutual aid provided speaks for itself. These are the organizations or the municipalities we assisted in 2023 and 24. Couple interesting things happened in 2024. So we went to the city of Philadelphia for the first time in history. Yeah, that's what I said. I was reading the page and I did a double take. The reality is November, the wildfires went crazy in November with the dryness. We were in Honeybrook, we were in White Marsh. In fact, we were in White Marsh again a couple days ago. The city of Philadelphia, as well as a bunch of where else too? I think we were in Whitpain too once. But bottom line is other than that, it's been fairly consistent. And the next slide shows how many times we receive mutual aid from all the fire departments that help us, the ones we go and help all the time. And that's actually a picture of the Mobility Works fire on South Trooper Road there to your right. Looked like early on. What's that? I believe it was the winter of 23. Yeah.
So, Chief, on the mutual aid, just while we're somewhere there, I don't fully understand, you receive and provide mutual aid to other townships or from?
Yes.
How does that process begin? You go to a fire in this township and you need additional help. Is it you that call the other fire companies, or does it go back to a central point and get dispatched? How does that go?
So it's both. If we're out on we handle the far majority of our incidents by ourselves. Okay. For any building fire, and we actually have a slide to talk about the regional operations here coming up. So, but real quick, any building fire gets 5 engine companies and 2 ladder companies. So we basically hit 7 different physical fire stations for equipment. And the reason is that all the municipalities around us have the same challenges with manpower or personnel. And we come together and basically we operate like a city fire department. We all come together, congregate at one place, and execute the tasks that need to be done to complete the job. At the same time, if we're out on something and decide we need more help, we just pick up the radio and call for it. So it's automated at the county level. If the nature of the call demands the response, and if we need the additional help elsewhere, we just ask for it and they send it. We could ask for a specific resource, or we could simply ask for by department, or we could simply ask for the type of resource, and we have resource lists there that they can select from.
Okay, so thanks for that. Now, if we just looked at, I'm looking at the mutual aid provided slide. I guess, no, you're on the received one. There's a very disproportionate number of townships getting support. Maybe that's proximity. So, like, if you take Norristown, Upper Providence, West Norton, you've got half of the calls.
Correct. So West Norton and us work together hand in hand more frequently because we're really close.
Okay.
Not only for building fires, but sometimes we get second and third calls, and we can only handle so many at one time, so they'll come backfill and cover us. We go to Collegeville frequently. They're not as big, but we do go there and help them out. And Upper Providence and us work together a lot too. Upper Providence is large, like Lower Providence is, and it's not uncommon for them to have struggles with multiple calls at one time, and we provide them backup, and they provide us backup.
Okay, so the equipment available in the various fire companies in this region is not disproportionate a great deal. Most of the townships have the basics they need.
Yes. We're getting, the fire service is kind of going in a circle. Back when I started, all we had was engine companies, meaning pumpers. And then we got into the rescue and ladder business. And everyone else did it. Back then, there was a rescue company and a ladder in Norristown, and we all used it. Then everybody went and got everything on their own. So now everybody has everything. Now we're starting to see a switch shift back again with our regional operating procedures, where we're providing specific resources to other communities. So I'll give you an example. One of the strong footprints we have here in Lower Providence Fire Department is our ladder company. All the other municipalities around us went and put in 4-person, not all of them, but multiple ones, but 4-person career engine companies in place, paid full time. Well, there's a job on fire scenes for ladder companies and engine companies. And as part of our recruitment program and part of our not only our recruitment program, but our training program, and the need to keep firefighters available here in Lower Providence Township, we kind of marketed the idea that we have a ladder company. We want to be that regional ladder company. So not only does that keep our firefighters trained and motivated and keeps them here, but it provides that service for them, and in turn, they provide us the services in return with engine companies or rescue companies or their own ladder companies in some cases as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Okay. And same slide for 2024. And of course, I want to take a minute and thank Chief Jackson, Lower Providence Police Department, and our ambulance chief Chris Reynolds. They back us up all the time. The police come to every fire call, and we try to limit the ambulance to when we really need them because they're so busy, but they always have our backs 100% of the time. We appreciate that. So 2023, I'll try to get through this quick. Unfortunately, we had a horrible Christmas Day fire in 2023. That's the picture you see in the background. That's what we saw when we pulled up at 4 o'clock on Christmas Day in the afternoon, a well-advanced fire. Believe it or not, we were able to stop it. Unfortunately, the house was still destroyed, but we were able to stop it in its tracks. The other picture is a solar panel fire on Martha Lane that got into the attic and burnt the attic out pretty bad. I think that was on a Saturday afternoon. And a few others. You can see the addresses. Lexington Lane wasn't all that big. Barrington Road, Paulings Road was a total loss, middle of the night or late afternoon, early evening fire. And of course, the South Trooper Road building fire we talked about earlier. So Nancy Lane was kind of interesting. You'll see the picture to the right with the flames like 40 feet in the air. And we had a shed fire that got to, I want to say it was a 100-pound propane cylinder or 200-pound propane cylinder, a big propane cylinder. And it blevied, and it took off. And then the next one went, and it blevied, and it took off. And it was quite interesting, to say the least. Fortunately, we kept the fire to the propane tanks in the shed. The siding melted on the house a little bit, but it was not by any means destroyed. And then You can see the other addresses for yourself. Any questions on any of that? So, accomplishments. You know that we've been involved in recruitment and doing all kinds of different things. Well, what we did in 2023 was we partnered with Worcester Fire Company, Methacton School District, and we have been in front of thousands of kids. We go there continuously for a whole bunch of different career days and future and events at both Arcola and the high school. And what we did is we brought Worcester with us because there's all these students are in both of our jurisdictions, and we figured, well, it not only is it wouldn't be fair for us to go to Methacton High School in Worcester's district, but we found that we would work better together, especially if we're trying to do this during the day and have the resources. So that's been fantastic, which kind of led to recruitment days. We actually bring interested kids to the fire station for a field trip, and we spend 6 or 7 hours there. We feed them lunch. They get to play with the jaws of life and fire hoses and fire trucks and do all kinds of neat stuff. And the idea is to get some members out of it. We implemented a member retention team so that when our new members come in, we try to onboard them in the most systematic way possible and to keep their attention and make sure we pay enough attention to them. And quite frankly, it's still work in progress. We continued to update our training records and audit our training records. It was quite the challenge, but we've got it to the point now we're 101% up to par. We obtained a grant for a fit test machine for our self-contained breathing apparatus for our face pieces to meet national standards and make sure everybody has a proper seal. The state rep's office was able to get us I think it was about a $15,000 or $16,000 grant for that. We were talking earlier about our box alarms. So what we did is, in conjunction with their policies and procedures, the Regional Operations Committee, we adopted our dispatch or modified our dispatch procedures for Lower Providence Township to send us 5 engine companies and 2 ladder companies on any report of a building fire. So hypothetically speaking, if there's a fire in Eagleville, without looking at it, you're going to get Lower Providence Fire Department, and we're counting on an engine and a ladder coming out of Lower Providence Fire Department. You can get a Worcester, a ladder, an engine from Collegeville, engine from Norristown, an engine from Upper Providence. Is that 5? Maybe an engine from East Norton, something like that, to accommodate what we call a box alarm or a first alarm assignment to complete the tasks at hand. And we're doing that for them, and they're doing that for us. And of course, our new engine's finally coming in a few months. We ordered that in 2022. We paid $785. We're going to pay $785,000 for it. If we signed the contract today for 3 years from now, it would cost us $1.21 million. That is what's happening in our industry. The same engine in 2017 was $515,000 or $520,000. Same exact, different brand, but basically the same thing. So it literally doubled since 2017. Our firehouse renovations, we got a couple pictures there. For those of you that haven't been by to see it, please give us a call. Stop by anytime you want. We're really proud of it. That's our firehouse table on the upper right-hand side there, the heart of the organization. That's a screenshot of our new bunk rooms. We want them to be as comfortable as possible if you want volunteers to come and spend time there. And that's our new emergency operations center in the lower center picture right there. Everything's about 99%. We're still tweaking some stuff. We still got some work to do, but we're making good headway. We acquired a couple vehicles. One of them, the compliments, again, from State Representative Webster's office, a $100,000 grant for a new utility, which more often than not gets utilized to help Chief Jackson and their police department with traffic control. We also received a new traffic unit itself. I'm going to show you a couple pictures of those. We acquired a forcible entry prop, which was on the last slide. And we got a $280,000 grant from the federal government for new breathing apparatus. So we were able to take that money and hopefully try to offset some of these building construction costs that we had to absorb over top of our initial budget. And we updated some regional operating procedures. Any questions at this point?
What's the difference between your operations center and the county's?
Ours is set up to handle what we need to handle right here in Lower Providence Township. We don't have the ability to dispatch anybody, but we can talk on the radio. The idea there would be to, it's an office. At the same time, as needed, we can handle multiple incidents at one time or start logging incidents when you get a storm, right? We get a storm and sometimes we get 20 calls in 10 minutes. So we have to handle all that. And if we're getting 20 calls in 10 minutes, that means the county's getting 2,000 calls in 10 minutes. So like during Ida, there was calls that we handled the county never even gave us. But due to other computer apps and IT or other technology, we were able to track things and get on things before the county would even send us. At the same time, we just run a list, and then we'd have someone sitting in there and prioritize what's most important, and we'd handle them one at a time going down. The county literally gets so overwhelmed they can't get to them. Answer your question? All right, real quick, the Regional Operations Committee, there's a list there of all the municipalities that are incorporated in that work group, and there's a list of policies and procedures that we updated. The bottom line is our goal, and there was a mission statement on there. I don't know what happened to it, but our goal is to make the fire grounds more efficient and safer for everybody. And by getting together and developing unilateral operating procedures in which we're how we're going to operate with command and accountability and actual hose line advancement and ladder company operations and so forth, not only does it make it safer, but it makes it so much more efficient. And while it's work in progress, every day it gets better. It's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Quite frankly, the whole county's watching us, and I actually had the privilege to lead that committee of 22 fire companies.
And Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, but this whole Regional Operations Committee was really kind of organically grown. No one forced this upon you, or I mean, this was like an idea that you and your neighboring departments had and said like we should do this, and you guys kind of did this on your own.
So I had to when I took over in 2020, Norristown, Bridgeport, and Upper Marion were operating under this pretense, and I have great working relationships with all those people, and I got to talk into what was happening. And as soon as I heard what was happening, we jumped right in. It's a no-brainer. It's what everybody's been trying to accomplish. Not everybody, but some groups have been trying to accomplish for years, and we're doing it on our own without any. Quite frankly, there's the only municipal guidance is those chiefs that are municipally appointed. Other than that, we're kind of on our own trying to do better things. Did that answer your question, Mr. Mentry? So we adopted a command aid policy and a communications guideline, a tanker operations guideline for our areas that don't have fire hydrants in them. And I'm going to keep on moving here. I'm taking enough of your time. There's our picture of our new traffic unit, $112,000. All locally, bought locally, finished locally. Next slide. There's our new utility. That was a grant from Joe Webster's office. Replaced the 1999 pickup truck. 2011 pickup truck, and the other one replaced the 2007 utility vehicle. Next. Recruitment. Chief Davis, the floor is yours.
Thanks, guys. I'll keep it quick for you. I'm going to speed through a couple recruitment slides and then kind of get to a return on investment slide that I'm really excited to present to you all regarding your support, both in confidence and financially for our department. Chief Lentz mentioned that we've partnered with the high school and with Worcester Fire Department. We've had great luck recruiting teenagers who are the demographic who have the time to go through the training that's required today. One of the things that you'll see in our industry is a decline of volunteerism, and there's a lot of reasons for that. One of them is the time demand on our volunteers, conflicting with a society that's busier and busier, dual income households, people working 2 jobs, et cetera. We've had tremendous luck recruiting high schoolers who we were able to bring in and send to the fire academy, and a significant portion of the folks that staff our firehouse every night, including right now just down the street, came from Methacton High School in one of these programs. We go to the next slide. A bar chart to wow you around our active roster. You can see we track membership and participation in operational activities in 4 categories, and all 4 are up from the prior reporting period from last time. So these numbers are net, so they're new folks in, less those who've stopped coming around. And we see folks stop coming around when they go to college, when they move out of the area, when life doesn't sustain this type of commitment anymore. And we can go one more slide. This is where I'm excited to show you the payoff on the next slide, but I wanted to spend just a moment talking about the staffing history at the fire department. So in 2020, we celebrated our 75th anniversary, and for the first 75 years, this was a come-from-home department. Somebody calls 911, there's a dispatch to the fire department, the bells ring, we get in our cars, we go to the firehouse, we put on our gear, we get on a fire truck, we go to a fire call. At the same time, during those years, the busy fire years in the 70s and 80s when this country had a major fire problem, we would get a house fire in the township and 35 firefighters would show up from Lower Providence and we would handle the fire. Today, we operate in this regional group because we need 7 fire departments to get 35 firefighters in a timely fashion. We rely on 6 other fire departments to come to our fires, and we in turn have an obligation to help them at their fires. It's what makes the system work. It's what makes the regional operating committee work. Fire losses, loss of life in fires, and fire injuries in Lower Providence Township are nearly non-existent, and I need to knock on wood when I say that. But that is a fact in this town. Nonetheless, in the fall of 2020, kind of sitting around socially distanced with our masks on, we determined that while we were doing good enough, we needed to do better. We had a desire to do better, wanted to be a regional leader. We wanted to deliver better to our community. And we hatched a plan for a committed staffing model that was first committing folks to come from home, because up until the fall of 2020, when the bell rang, we got who we got. And myself and Chief Lentz and plenty of others in our departments have showed up and been the only person that got in and drove the fire engine to the call and handled it. And we said, it's not safe, it's not right. And while that was rare, we were worried that that could become more common in the future, and we needed to get in the way of that. So we came to the township early in 22 and asked for funding to provide stipend payouts to our volunteers to spend time in the firehouse. And the township entertained the idea and graciously supported us. And we can jump to the next slide, and I'm eager to show you what we've done with it. There's a lot going on in this bar chart, and I'm going to cut right through it. The green line is the average response time for our first fire engine, which is down about 40%, or a little over 2 minutes in the time since we've asked for the funding. I don't think that anyone in this room can hold their breath for 2 minutes. Don't prove me wrong. And as an organization that delivers a better service because of this, and as a father whose children sleep in this township, thank you for the funding and thank you for the support, because this program makes a difference. And we can have firefighters who are here for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, and the difference between getting out the door in 2 minutes and 4 minutes may never matter, or a minute from now, it might make a huge difference. And we have to operate understanding that that could be tonight, every night. And that all 50 of those firefighters that Jim Lentz mentioned go to sleep every night knowing tonight could be the night it matters. And we have firefighters in our firehouse 7 nights a week now, responding at the dispatch, cutting out 5 minutes of time coming from home, and you're seeing the results. The number graphed is for the quarter ending in January, and it's about a 3-minute and 30-second average response time. That tends to be about 50 seconds during our staffing periods and 5 or 6 minutes during the daytime. That number for February, I just ran it yesterday, is down to about 2.5 minutes. And what's happening is we're staffing more and more in the firehouse. You're seeing that gold bar get bigger. You're seeing it jump way up because we completed the station renovation, so now folks are willing to come sleep in our firehouse because they have beds, because they can shower between fires and things like that. And we are able to respond to rescues, fires, cardiac arrests, you name it, a lot quicker. This program has responded to fatal fires. This program has responded to fires with people trapped, and we have undoubtedly gotten there faster and made a difference because of this program, which is enabled by your funding and support and all of yours as well. So from us to you, thank you, and we will continue to do better here, and we look forward to presenting more progress in the future. Do you guys have questions?
Just a comment maybe. Very pleased to hear all this short-term improvement, particularly with regard to recruiting and staffing. And the long-term that at least I was concerned about before that was your demographic was aging. You not only didn't have more firefighters, everybody was getting older, so that was going to become more of a problem. It sounds very much like what you have done, and may not keep all of these young people long-term, but you'll keep a number of them. And that is very good news for the long-term success of your fire company.
I would agree, and I think the assessment is accurate. I joke with Chief Lentz that whatever problem we solve, he'll have another one that's his next biggest problem. And we have gone through the evolution as an organization of making sure, looking down the road 5 years and going, geez, where are we going to find firefighters? And now we have firefighters, and our concerns are different. It's how do we keep them safe? It's how do we give them what they need to have them keep going? And so we still have the concerns, and we still work hard. But I would agree that the average age of those who are staffing our firehouse 7 nights a week is probably in the mid-20s. And that's who you get in this business, right? And so it's our job to prepare them, and we take a lot of pride in that.
And also, the high schoolers that can go through the training when they go off to college, if they come back here, do they come back to the fire department to volunteer?
Yeah, absolutely. We have annual recertification requirements, but the breadth of the training is one time. And then you get your on-the-job experience after that. So yeah, we welcome them back with open arms. We have students that go to college and they come back on the weekends, or they come back in the summertime and they participate.
That's great.
Thanks, guys.
And I just want to say this hurt a little bit early on because we had to do a small tax increase for this, but I think it was money well spent, as you're showing here.
Yeah, I would just add, it's often difficult to stomach funding an organization that most people won't ever need, right? But that 2 minutes and 10 seconds makes a big difference to somebody 700 times a year. And just because it's not me or you doesn't mean it's not important, and we appreciate the support.
Well, and I just want to say, I think I was one of those false alarms in 2023. Our fire alarms were hardwired, and so they all went off like at 11:30 at night. So we called the fire department. It was a short in the wire. It was not a fire, but I was glad they were there because we didn't know what was going on. And the fact that the firemen came into the house and assessed what was going on, thank you.
You're welcome.
Police department, and I've only been here not even 4 years.
It's a great point that you made. And what's happening is, you know, if you take our Red Tail Road subdivision of Toll Brothers, all those homes are 20, 25 years old or older. When they installed them was early generation interconnected smoke alarms. They all have 10-year shelf lives. Well, guess what? They're all been there for 25 years. So they don't ever go off at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. They go off at 3 o'clock in the morning, and people don't know what to do to turn them off. They know there's no fire, but they don't know what else to do, so they call us and we mitigate it for them. I will try to make this quick as possible. It's taking a little longer than what I expected. Quick, giving back, it's self-explanatory. I'm not going to read the slide to you. We continue to make sure Santa Claus visits every house in the township every year. I'm not sure if anybody realizes that the manpower and the time that takes, but that's a good 8 to 10 hour day with 40 plus people to make that happen for our residents. And of course, we're incredibly proud sponsors of the Montgomery County Hero Funds event, May 17th this year. We moved it up to the spring. And this year and next year, or last year and this year, we went to MDA camp and cooked dinners for the campers and the counselors.
Chief, you might want to mention the parade, just to make people aware.
The St. Patrick's Day parade?
Yeah.
Ah, okay. So our chairman of the board, Jackie Rittenhouse, was nominated and elected to be the Grand Marshal of the St. Patrick's Day Parade in Conshohocken, Saturday, March 15th. We're looking forward to a great day. Come on out. Next slide, please. Real quick, legislative priorities. First, I want to point out this photograph that our 6 township employees that serve the fire department day in and day out relentlessly. They do a fantastic job, and they are an integral part of our operation. All right? If you get a chance, they go the extra mile. They don't have to do this. Figure out where they're at. We'd appreciate it if you'd reach out. Not only thank them, but the rest of them as well. It would really mean a lot. Secondly, legislative priorities. So locally, I'm just going to read the slide for this one so the audience can see and hear it. I'd like to see us consider the development of progressive fire codes that address the fire safety concerns with storage and charging of electric vehicles. For those of you unfamiliar, they're one of the larger challenges in the fire service today. I'm very happy to report that Fire Marshal Rolfling and I met with Shannondale several years ago, Shannondale Retirement Community several years ago, in reference to our concern for their parking garages. Now, I could get into really deep details of how bad this could go, but we don't have time for that right now. At the time, we had a great conversation. They're great partners in community safety with us. We work together with them all the time, and it took some time, but in the end, just in the last couple months, as they discussed their changes or needs or concerns with their engineers and their insurance companies, it's been decided that they're not going to permit EV parking inside their garages anymore. That is going to make this a safer community. It's going to make it safer for your firefighters, and it's going to make it safer for their residents. Moving forward, I have no idea what's on the table in terms of construction with parking garages, commercial-wise, EV chargers, or anything alike, but it would behoove us to get in front of it now and put legislation in place to keep our residents and our firefighters safe and be able to handle the challenges brought forward with these cars.
Is there any data in regards to that in our area and
That in
state?
regards to the codes or what's happening?
What's happening in our area
So
with the EV?
there's
'Cause
national
I think out of
statistics.
us here, there's 2 of us that have EVs. So just curious.
There's national statistics that state that 50% of the fires in EVs start when they're being charged, when they're plugged in. Nationwide, the problem is we can't put the fires out. When the lithium-ion batteries are burning, we don't have products to extinguish them. And if we did have a product to extinguish them, we can't get to them because they're encased in aluminum or steel boxes. And at 600 plus volts, we have no safe means to penetrate those boxes to cool those batteries to stop that process, in a nutshell.
What do you have to do, yank it out of the building somehow?
If it was in a building, the goal would be we could cover it for a short period of time with a blanket. The problem is the products of combustion can explode. So you do that, you risk creating a bomb. So we would try to cool it and knock it back, and if we can drag it out, we would drag it outside. But that's easy when it's straight in a driveway in a house. We just drag it out to the street. But try doing it in a parking garage with turns and other cars and zero visibility. It might get complicated. And secondly, we'd like to see the township advance some improvements or some changes to our local codes that would allow our fire marshal and our codes department to do annual or biannual or every so often inspections to our nonprofit facilities. Right now, we have a business inspection program that includes all of our commercial facilities. It's really important that we adapt that to incorporate our nonprofits. I'm not going to get into too many specifics. It's obviously they won't burn or they are not at any less risk than any other building. But more important, our most precious commodity is our children are in these facilities, and we need to keep them safe. We have an obligation to keep them safe and keep our firefighters safe. We have the obligation to make sure that the aisleways are clear and the exit doors work, the most basic functions of public safety. We're not interested in making anybody's life hard or more challenging. We just want it to be safe for our firefighters and safe for our community. And if you need more information on that, by all means, I'll be happy to back it up with whatever you need. Next slide. Statewide. So it's important that you guys to recognize that we have affiliations or direct input in communications with agents that represent the Pennsylvania Emergency Services Institute, the Pennsylvania Professional Firefighters Association, the Career Fire Chiefs Association, the Firefighters Association of Pennsylvania, and of course Montgomery County Fire Chiefs. And together, they finally have a unified front for legislation in the state of Pennsylvania. Things are going well on a lot of fronts. If we happen to get a chance to talk to our state reps, they're talking about taking the current $30 million allocation for fire company grants and doubling that to expand into a competitive program, which would allow us to get grants for projects outside of the current scope of the funded programs. We're interested in the state funding for physicals and for mental health care for firefighters. And at the same time, there's some movement to put carbon monoxide alarms in child care facilities. Next. And we want the feds to maintain our Assistance to Firefighter grant program as well as our SAFER grant program, which we've taken advantage of here to the tune of, I don't know, $1.5 million, Dan, in the last 10 years. It's really, really, really great stuff. I believe it was just funded for 4 more years prior to the administration change, so hopefully it'll stay in place and won't get disrupted. Looking forward, we got a grant coming for a UTV that'll have a skid pump on it and a Stokes basket device on it for medical emergencies, as well as brush fires in our parks, State Park, the Valley Forge Park, Mill Grove Bird Sanctuary, all of our bike trails. That comes with a trailer, and we also have a grant as well for a new self-contained breathing apparatus fill station. We're working on a concept plan for the Audubon facility for our emergency services station. We got an architect who's donating some time to us in the ambulance squad, and hopefully we'll be able to bring something to the township manager sometime in the near future to talk about what the needs might be. And as our leadership team we could not do this. I could not do this without them. And thank you to our staff, our administrative staff, and all of our fire officers for their continued support day in and day out. And lastly is our recruitment stuff. We've got a recruitment flyer for entry-level firefighters that's posted out there in the foyer for anybody interested. And the next one is for certified firefighters. We're going to approach them from wherever we can. And at that, if anybody has any questions or comments, again, this took a little longer than what I anticipated. I apologize for that.
I just want to make one comment. On January 24th, Supervisor Charles and I did a tour of the fire station, and great tour by the chief and Dan. Love the improvements. You know, everything you've said with recruiting people willing to stay over, money well spent. Reduced response time because people are staying over, firefighters are staying over, but you've done great work and very impressed with you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. I would say the same. It was really impressive to see what you have going on at the fire company. Quick question, did your crew help respond to the Abington SPS fire at all, or you weren't called for that?
We were. So we actually operate, again, there's a system in place called the Large Diameter Hose Strike Team in Montgomery County. There's consists of about 10 different groups, and we have the ability to go out and deliver water for like 2 miles, right, from different water sources. And we were called in as part of that strike team to deliver water from a lengthy distance from the fire scene. At the same time, I was on scene ahead of them, participating with the Montgomery County Incident Support Team to try to help them get a grip on the situation.
Great. Thank you so much for helping with that. Now, a very important question. It is Irish Heritage Month, and we have the parade next Saturday. Can we ride on the fire truck in the parade? I'm just kidding.
I don't have any room for you.
We'll talk about it later.
Is that
Thank you.
1,800 hours of training to get on that truck?
How many?
1,800?
Nah, it's more like 200, but
I don't know if I can get it in time. Thank you.
you're welcome.
I'd just like to applaud this presentation. Thank you for being very comprehensive, and thank you for all that you do for keeping us safe, you know, in Lower Providence Township. And I want an invitation to see the new digs there too. So thank you.
I'll be in touch.
Okay.
I just can't let the three of you and everyone you represent leave without acknowledging you're all volunteers. You all get paid nothing to do this. And you're extremely important. I mean, it's important in many cases as a police department to some individuals who are in need, and they can rely on all of you to leave what you're doing and help them, and we appreciate it very much.
We appreciate the opportunity. May we ask the audience for comments or questions?
Just a few, because we have to move on. Does anybody have any public comment?
How you doing, Karen Maloney? Thank you for your service. Thank you for your service. You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you so much for coming
Thank you all.
and presenting. Thank you. Have a good night. Okay, next up is the consent agenda, the acceptance of the minutes of the Board of Supervisor meeting of February 2025. I'd like to make a motion to accept the consent agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any public comment? Any board comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next up, we have old business, a consideration of resolution 2025-15, approving the proposed subdivision of 1153 Paulings Road. EJ Mentry has more.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is now the third meeting in a row we've dealt with this, and I appreciate. And I'm just going to call you Mr. H because I don't want to butcher your last name, but I appreciate you coming here 3 meetings in a row. But this is essentially just a very basic 2-lot subdivision on Paulings Road. There's one existing lot with a home seeking to subdivide and create a second lot, essentially as a flag lot. To take the access off of the Colony Arms apartment. So at the previous meeting, the board voted to approve the application and grant preliminary final subdivision approval, along with approval of all of the requested waivers for the applicant. And so tonight, what is before you is just the formal resolution for preliminary and final subdivision approval. It's in a form that is pretty standard for this type of application. Really, the only unique thing about this resolution is, the requirement that the applicant provide a copy of the easement for the access from the Colony Arms apartment as a condition of approval before the plans can be recorded. But other than that, it's standard and it's ready for your approval tonight.
All right, I'd like to make a motion to approve the resolution 2025-15 of 1153 Paulings Road. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any public comment? Any board comment?
I have a question. So Tim, you're probably expecting this. The right-of-way here is 16.5 feet, I believe.
I think the existing legal right-of-way, Gary, is 16.5 feet on the subject property, as well as a number of those legacy properties going down Paulings to the south, correct?
Understood. And knowing that you have to build a network one link at a time, what is the normal desired right-of-way?
So I think the plan calls for a 30-foot ultimate right-of-way for the subject property as offered for dedication to us, yes.
Okay, and is that, what is it that we normally want as a township?
Yeah, the ultimate right-of-way is consistent with the ordinance that's being
Okay.
shown and approved on the plan, or the proposed plan. Correct.
And are there any improvements within the ultimate right-of-way in the
There are
plan?
none proposed.
Okay, no landscaping or anything like that?
That is correct.
Okay, great, thank you.
Surely.
Any other board comment? Okay. All in favor of the resolution?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Motion carries. Gary, did you vote? I didn't
Yeah,
hear you.
voted. Aye.
Okay, all right, I didn't hear you. Okay. Thank you. Okay. All right, on to new business. We have a proposed subdivision of 38 South Grange Avenue. Mike Brzezinski has more on that.
Good evening, thank you. For the board's consideration is a two-lot subdivision plan being brought forth by Marguerite and Michael Hayes of 38 South Grange. This is their property. It's approximately 8-acre property that they are wanting to make a second building lot off of, which would be approximately 3 acres. The property is in a fairly rural area of the township along South Grange. The property also is encumbered by some environmental concerns, some wetlands, some steep slopes, and some basically some water course back through there. So it's really a limited type of thing. There's no plan for construction at this point. It's really just the creation of the additional lot, basically for someday. And I believe that the Hayes' engineer here, and I see the Hayes' are also here for any questions that the board may have.
Thank you. Scott Camburn with Erweiler and Walter. I'm here with Michael and Marguerite Hayes. As Mike said, the applicant is proposing a two-lot subdivision, 38 South Grange Street Avenue. It's a 3-acre proposed lot. The proposed lot will be serviced by public sanitary sewer and a potable well. The existing lot is serviced by a potable well and on-site septic. We are in receipt of the Township Engineer's review letter from January 20th, 2025. All items within that review letter will comply. Applicant is requesting 3 waivers from the subdivision land development ordinance: 123-31, 123-32, 123-33. In essence, for roadway widening, curbing, and sidewalks along the property frontage. There are no other improvements along South Grange Street from Ridge Pike to Visitation Road.
Do we have a Google view of this area?
We have a street view.
Street view?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Can you, Mr. Camburn, I think was your name?
Yes.
Can you just kind of orient us? Is what we're looking at right now essentially what would be the newly created lot, or is that more the
Yes,
existing
that's
lot?
correct. That is approximately the, in front of the new lot.
So it's the more heavily wooded area in essence.
It's a sparsely wooded area in the front. It gets heavy in the back.
Thank you.
And it's a mildly sloping property, and there's an erosional feature that traverses through the rear of the property.
Can I just ask there are several things mentioned that I think Mike or Tim just mentioned. You have steep slopes, you have riparian buffer, and a couple of other notable.
That is correct, yes.
Are all of those contained in this print within the shaded area, either at the creek bed itself
Yeah,
or within
that-
close proximity?
That is correct. And one of the things that I think is important to note on the plan is that the permissible building envelope shown for Lot 2 does not capture any of those environmentally sensitive areas. So the plan is pretty clear that if there were to be a home constructed on Lot 2, it would need to occur more toward the front, more towards Grange Avenue, and away from those environmentally sensitive areas.
But not so far front that it would be beyond the limitation?
That is correct. So the front yard setback is correctly shown on the subdivision record plan, being consistent with the ordinance.
Okay, and this is projection, but presumably if a reasonable sized house were placed inside that building envelope, that would not in any way seriously change the flow or the water flooding areas?
That is correct, although in my review, I did request that a note be added to the plan that should a building permit application be made for lot number 2, that it would need to comply with all of our stormwater management obligations, erosion control measures, proof of potable water, and those types of things we would see with a building permit application.
Okay, so, and I just note that if a future building were to be placed on the new Lot 2, they would then go through basically land development review in terms of?
It wouldn't enter into the land development arena because it's a single-family detached home. The review of that application would occur at staff level.
But similar reviews with regard to stormwater and so
Correct.
forth would be undertaken in that process, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Then just quick question, are there any sidewalks on this side of Grange Avenue?
No, ma'am.
Okay, all right. And then the end of Grange, does this go out to Ridge or Germantown? I forget which side.
Ridge.
It's
Ridge
Ridge,
Pike.
right? Okay.
Ridge Pike.
Is there a sidewalk on Ridge that it could potentially connect to this street?
No, there is not.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Same question on the right-of-ways?
Correct, Mr. Knights. The subdivision plan does call for the appropriate ultimate right-of-way line for South Grange Avenue, as is required by our ordinance.
Okay. And I never, saw these lots like when we've had, major stormwater events like Ida. Do you have an idea of what the flooding was like there, if any at all?
I personally cannot answer that question. I'd have to ask the property.
Perhaps we have a neighbor that.
Yeah. Are there any neighbors who?
Or the Hayes. The Hayes are here.
Yeah,
The Hayes are here. Hold on 1 second, Q.
I'm just wondering, how badly that flooded back there during some of the big rainstorms.
You're asking about the lot, correct?
The lot, yeah, and where they show the creek back there.
I don't recall, not that I went walking through the field at that time, but I don't recall any flooding that was, dumping into the street or anything.
I would suggest that topographically, it appears that the buildable portion of Lot 2 is very regularly graded, so it's more sheet flowing action. It doesn't appear there's any concentration of flow along that building envelope area. So it's a sloping field as maybe the street view would suggest. And obviously, a new home would need to accommodate that grading and topography, but it doesn't appear like the subject lot would be flooded.
Any other questions from the board? Since we have some public comments, we will allow that now, and then we'll, yeah, yep. Here, do you want to have a comment? Yep, yep.
Karen Maloney, Lower Providence. The Ida, you asked about the flooding. Going down the storm grates, the water was, I have a video, I'm trying to find it. It was that high. Driving up in my truck, because the water flows from the top of Grange down. You were talking about, you were talking about it being more level. It is. But the house that's on the top, they're going to need to divert the water from the top being on the bottom. So how are they going to divert the water and that not be a problem? So we're going to, here we are subdividing stuff, right? And I'm not even against people doing their thing. They've been in the township a long time. My request is, if this is subdivided, something needs to be put in place if this is going to go through that says, this is it, we're done. There's not going to be townhouses, because what I've seen is when people, the more money that people throw at something, stuff just moves through. Because right across the street from this house, they were given the world 85% variance. And if you drive down Grange Avenue now, and you can just see they just started framing, the people in Grange, it doesn't belong there. So my, if you guys are going to approve this, right, it stops at just 2 houses on the property. Because in 10 years, somebody with more money, are they going to be able to come in and then switch it? Next thing you know, we have 16 houses on 8 acres, because land is limited in the township. We all know that. So that would be my only, and like I said, they're awesome neighbors, really good people. But the rest of the neighbors need to be protected, because we're still dealing with the movie lots. So thank you.
Mr. Maloney, I have a follow-up question for you. Where was the water 5 feet deep?
It hits the storm grates.
Are you talking about like at the bottom of Grange where it kind of?
No, in the middle of Grange. So we're kind of at the top of the hill. So yeah, right across from the prison. So as you're going down, the storm grates on the side, the water was rushing so fast, it was literally 4 foot in the air. And
it was, okay, it wasn't 4 or 5 feet deep, it was gushing up 4 feet.
Right.
Okay.
It was that much water.
Gotcha.
Right, so it does. We never had water in our house. Since they were building at the prison, now the basement floods, so we had to remedy that. So there is water problems back there, but as far as it being on the lower plane, he's right. But also, what are you going to do with the water at the top? Have a good night.
Thank you. Okay. EJ Mentry's going to tell us the next steps here.
Yeah, so thank you for the presentation, Mr. Canburn, and thank you for the property owners for being here. So just the next steps, how this process works, because this is the board's first time seeing this. They're not going to vote on it tonight. It's a two-step process. You just heard me walking through it with the previous applicant. So at the next meeting, the board will vote on the application and consider the waiver request as well. And then based on that decision, the meeting after that, we'll have a formal resolution prepared laying out the approval or denial and the conditions thereof. And what we try to do typically is between the next meeting and the one following that, once that resolution is drafted, we'll get a copy of that to you in advance of the meeting for your review as well.
Great. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I just before, I just want to ask Tim, maybe Mike, but in the question of additional construction on this lot, this is R1, which would
That is-
mean
that is correct.
65,000 square
Correct.
feet. So it would not be, under the current zoning, possible to build any more than one facility on that lot, correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay, just wanted to clear that up. And Tim, well, did you look, or did you consider what might be the downhill flow from Lot 1 to Lot 2? Is that anything that,
Yeah, that's certainly something that I was alluding to in that note that I have Mr. Cambert adding to the plan. This is a kind of a, to Kier's point, a kind of a standard obligation of the design of a new building lot is to deal with that off-site and overland runoff that might encounter the new home being constructed. So a swale would need to intercept that runoff, take it to probably the channel in the rear of the property, and make sure that the house itself that's being proposed is high and dry.
so that would come up if and when there was a proposal to put a building on that lot?
That is correct.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next is consideration of petition to vacate First Street and authorization to advertise an ordinance to vacate. And Mike Rosinski and Solicitor Clark will tag team on this.
Okay. For the board's consideration is a request to vacate a part of a paper street to basically facilitate the consolidation of several lots in common ownership and basically end up with the construction of a single-family detached home on basically the northerly side of the plan along Elm Street. The property does have, or I'm sorry, the frontages of several of the properties owned by the Myers, which is the applicant. The half width of the street is a paper street. They have brought forth a plan and a request to vacate that unopened street, that unimproved street, to the township as part of the obligation to do so that they can basically proceed to further develop their plans and look at the single-family detached home. They are seeking to basically consolidate several parcels to accommodate the R2 required zoning. And at this point, I'm going to tag Mr. Clark.
The applicant can explain the property and the project, but this is the first step in the process. They have filed a petition for vacation of a Lower Providence Township paper street. If the board is so inclined to grant this petition, then an ordinance will need to be drafted for the official vacation of the paper street.
And just so the public understands, what is a paper street and why are we even having this discussion? If someone can explain what that is.
So, sure. So when different areas of the township are laid out, or there are different subdivisions, sometimes an area is laid out as being a street that may be for some kind of potential future use. The township doesn't have the intent of using that street immediately, so it is only showing up on paper, hence the term paper street. If the township desires to open up the street, they can do that at a later date. But if they don't open it up and a resident, as the ones here, have indicated they are asking for the paper street to be vacated, they file this petition and then we can move forward.
I have an aerial view, probably better so you could take a better look at it, so you can see exactly where that paper street is. Was this the one they have?
Yeah, we're good there. Yeah.
Can you just identify yourself?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm Carl Meyer.
Welcome.
That's my son, David Meyer. He's the one who's going to be building the house over there. We have 4 lots together, and then there's a paper street that goes on the side of it. And then legally, township has nothing to do with, doesn't want anything to do with it. It's either half the street is for whoever owns one half, the other half is paper street. The people on the other half own the paper street. That's what we have. I actually have emails back in, how many years ago?
2016 when you.
2016, when I have an apartment building there, where the lots go in there, and I brought him with me today just because I had him years ago, and I asked because a tree fell into my property with a paper street. Town's just like, well, we don't have. You can actually see that paper, whatever. That's considered whoever owns one half owns the other half. I talked to a couple of lawyers. That's the way it is. We have to file vacation paperwork with a lawyer, which we did, and we're only asking for half, not the full paper street, only the half that the lots are connected to. But if you pull this one up, you'll be able to see it a little bit better. I don't think that's the one.
That's it, but there's lots of trees.
No, this one here is with the black.
This is
I can't
outlined
see.
of the lots. Yeah.
Can I bring it up?
Yeah, there's a second copy. You want to hand it around?
We already own both sides of Baker Street and frontage of Elm Street. We already own that. Both sides. We're only asking for the half that needs to connect to this section right here. Yeah, exactly.
Is there like a trolley, an old trolley way or something there to connect us across?
That was years, 60, 70 years ago. I actually had the lot there too. I own that back lot, the continuation. I own the whole entire one side of the paper street. The other side is these 4 lots, and then they have a neighbor with a lot, and then a house. We're also on both sides of the lot. So.
Down at the bottom there, I've seen it looks like they've already like built onto the paper street.
Parking lot. That's the old community center?
Yeah.
You're talking about the bottom right.
You're talking about the driveway? Yeah. Yeah. Well, actually, he can show you where the paper street is. It's close to it, yes.
Yeah.
But
it's the old community center.
yeah, we have those 2 emails if you want to take a look at the township where we asked them if you want to see that. Do you have those with you, Mike? I don't. I think he has them over here. Can I go get them for you?
Oh, you got more?
Yeah, just the 2 emails. I already have that.
Nope.
And so is the only part that you're looking to, Gary, can you turn your microphone? I'm looking at this diagram that we have here that
It's
is
better
in our
if you look at
packet.
This one. But you could look at that one too.
Yeah, I'm looking at the blue.
This is the paper street right here.
No, I understand. Yeah, I'm looking at the blue shading here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the paper street.
Yeah.
No, I understand.
Here, you got to
Oh,
talk
I'm
to the
sorry.
mic.
It's not just us, TV listening on the screen.
Charge you.
So my question is your application asking to take the part in blue here?
It's only half of the paper street.
Yeah.
Yes.
The part in blue.
That's connected to the lots that we own.
There's a part up here that's in yellow that crosses
Do
the
you
paper.
already own
We
it?
already own both sides of the paper street.
You already own it there.
That's the
Okay,
frontage.
so you're just looking
Okay.
for the part that's in
Yeah.
blue here.
Legally,
Okay.
it's ours. We have to vacate the paper, we have to send paperwork to the township.
Yep.
And normally they say, okay, we'll vacate. You
Yeah.
can head. Right now, it's holding us up because we want to take the paper street and have it
Yep.
combine all the lots together.
I understand,
And
yeah.
move into our next step. And then we're waiting,
So
But
you had previously done that with the part in yellow up at the top of the diagram there.
There was 4 lots. I bought 2 at a time.
Yeah,
Years
'cause
ago.
there you already cross over and
Yes,
own
yes,
both sides
yes.
of the paper street
So in
there.
other words, this is First Street way up here.
Yep.
Yep,
This is First Street.
Right.
First Street
Right.
down here.
right,
So it's like a street, but this is all dirt. If you can see it here,
Yep.
yep,
it's all
yep.
wooded.
familiar
See
with
it? That's why I got this printed.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah,
lot easier
that
to
makes
see.
sense.
But so you got this vacated already?
No, that's
This
part
little-
of the lot. that I purchased.
Okay, that's, yeah.
We didn't need vacate there. We didn't
Sorry.
need to vacate
just
that.
trying to
That was part of
understand.
the lot. One number
Okay.
one. There's 4
We can't
of them
even see
altogether.
the paper street right now. There's a lot of trees, right?
A lot of the trees that
Lot
fell
of
on my
trees.
property, and we had a lot of cleanup for 20,
Yeah,
we have 30 years actually.
yeah,
So-
yeah.
It'd be helpful for everyone else
Oh,
if we
nice,
spoke
nice.
from there and we
Yeah.
use the map on the screen, because
Yeah.
nobody else can see what you're looking at. on the
No, I'm
map.
sorry, but I just can't see that well either.
It's not your fault. We kind of invited you up here. You kept the conversation going a little too long than it should have, so we're going to
Yes.
return to normal here. Thank you.
All right.
If I may just follow up what you were saying, looking at the blue section, which
Yes.
is adjacent to the owned properties to it, you want to own that property as part of those lots?
Yeah, we want to vacate that, only that side of the paper street.
Okay.
The other side, actually, that's where my primary is. I own a couple of houses in a row on there, so it's only half of the paper street. So legally.
What's going to happen to the other half?
I own it anyway.
You already
He's only
own it.
asking for this, because we're combining all 4 lots.
Yeah.
When we go to legal documentation, so they can legally put 90 degrees here, 90 degrees there for that.
Okay.
So I'm not gonna vacate the other side. I have no
Okay, I
reason
understand.
to,
It's just a
so.
process you don't need to do.
Yeah, because then you would have to do the neighbors. If he wants to try to do the whole entire paper street, then he would have to get the neighbor's permission and to vacate that. But he's not even asking for that.
Understand.
Just what we own. That's it.
Okay.
This slide they pulled up is all his land
Yeah,
owned in yellow.
yeah, all the yellow is
Yeah.
mine anyway, so, yeah, so.
And so would it be your intention when you build to reconfigure these lots and actually be on the paper, what is now the paper street when you?
The purpose is just for the setback to have the single family home close to Elm.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
So, all the houses are facing each other for the whole street. We're trying to get everything looks exactly the same, but we're just trying to do it. The next step is for our lawyer to make the deed, so he can put it in his name, get the building permits, and get this thing going. So,
Okay.
but did you read the papers I sent you, the emails? I think I gave them to you. Back in 16, we asked the township for help us out with a couple trees that fell out of the paper street. Whoever owns this side, that side, I saved those emails for years ago. If you'd like to read that, but.
Now, did you know
Any
you were
legal-
buying land next to a paper street?
Yeah, actually it did.
Okay,
I
okay,
took me
great.
20 years to buy the one and another 15
Oh,
years
wow.
ago that I bought from Moles Flowers, but they retired and I
Yeah.
bought the other part there. And I had all 4 of them together, then I had something.
Nice.
And unfortunately, he gets married and he gets what he wants, a house. So there you go, after 30, 40 years.
That's
So,
great, that's
we're just
awesome.
trying to-
That's right, that's right.
Yeah, but now tariffs now, so now the house is going to cost extra $5,000, $10,000 because
Okay, we're not gonna go into a different conversation here.
Now we got to pay extra $5,000 because
Yeah.
the paperwork is unbelievable. Get from the lawyer
Yeah.
to this to this to that.
Okay.
And we're just trying to get the.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
so.
Well, thank you for entertaining
Thank you.
our conversation and questions here. So I would like to make a motion to have a petition to vacate First Street and authorization to advertise the ordinance to vacate. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Any public comment? Any further board comment?
I would make one small board comment on this. It doesn't really apply to this property, but there are some places where we do have paper streets that, as we've been looking at some interconnectivity, we saw opportunities to leverage them for trail interconnects and to connect parts of the community. So I just think we want to be mindful of that as we look at paper streets, but there's no issue like that here.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you.
Great.
Yeah,
All,
that's good.
all in
Have a nice
favor?
night.
Well, hold on.
Also-
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
very much.
All righty. Next is the consideration of Resolution 2025-16, approving Monco 2040 grant application. EJ Mentry has more.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'm stealing Paul's thunder because he's away right now, but this is one of Paul's projects. But Paul completed and submitted a grant application to the Monco 2040 grant for a sidewalk connection between Lantern Lane and Audubon Road on Paulings Road. And so this resolution is required as kind of a follow-up part of the total application package for the county. So the estimated total cost of the project is $188,300. The township's match is 20% or $37,660. So therefore the grant request is $150,640. This is a project that the board had authorized last year for a different grant program for an application. Unfortunately, we did submit that, but we were unsuccessful. So we're giving it another try with this, with a different grant program that we do think fits better with this project. And I know that we have quite a bit of community support from some of the neighbors who are really seeking this connection to, which would essentially connect a neighborhood of more than 200 homes with the ability to safely walk from their neighborhood down to either the Mara athletic fields or directly across the street into the John James Audubon Center, which then provides trail connections to several other trail networks.
And this is also potentially on the path of a rerouting of the 9/11 trail that
Correct.
comes through the township, which brings up a question with this. With this grant application, would it have to be a sidewalk or could it be a trail? Like, is the actual detail of the construction locked in at this point?
It is not.
Okay. So we have.
I mean, for our purposes, I don't know that I don't want to say care. We care about the quality of any project that we do, but I think the primary goal here is to provide safe connectivity. So whether that's via a traditional concrete sidewalk or an asphalt trail, I'm not sure.
The trail might be wider, the sidewalk might be narrower, so that's something we might want to just think about. And I was in contact with the folks of the president of the 9/11 Trail actually earlier this week.
Great.
You know, and this is actually on the route of a potential reroute.
That's great.
Yep.
Awesome.
So just the matching, should we get the grant, the matching funds of $37,660, that's in the sidewalk fund already? We wouldn't need new funding for this?
Correct. We did. The sidewalk fund does contain that in excess of that amount. And additionally, regardless of where the board may decide to pay that out of, it wouldn't be a 2025 budget item, because if we do get this grant, it's going to be really a budget discussion for next year.
Any other board? Okay. I'll like to make a motion to approve the resolution 2025-16, Monco 2040 grant application. Is there a second?
I'd like to second it.
Okay, great. Any public comment?
Good evening, Michael Ryan, Apple Valley Lane. I'll keep this quick, it's been a long night. I just want to thank the board for their consideration of this resolution this evening. I was here about a little over a year ago. Sorry, even more. There you go. I was here a little bit more than a year ago with this idea. I'm here kind of on behalf of myself as well as the other residents of our township. I actually just heard about this today that was going to be voted on, and I put it on our little Facebook group that we have. And just as a little side note, one of the people was like, "Thank you so much for doing this, for following through with this." As a side note, I was walking with my dog. I was almost hit this weekend. So when I say that this is a very dangerous section of road, there are a lot of homes, like I said, almost 200 homes. People use this little area all the time. So again, I just want to thank the board for thinking of this resolution. I wish Paul was here. He's been a fantastic contact to work through with this. So thank you to EJ, the township administration, everyone else. So fingers crossed. Thank you.
Great. I have a question for you. We need your help. There is the corner lot neighbor we
Yes.
haven't been able to get in touch with. So if you can get in touch with that neighbor, that would be wonderful.
I have actually attempted that myself. I've knocked on the door. They will not answer the door. I was talking to Paul. I might actually draft a letter from myself to see if he'll reply to the letter, but we have tried.
Okay. Okay.
All right.
All right. Thank you. All right. Any further board comments? All right. Okay, great. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next is the acceptance of resignations. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, I'll keep this brief. We've did you want me to? Sorry. Okay, sorry. Yeah, we received notice within the past week, actually, of unfortunately, two resignations from various boards for different reasons, which I'm not going to disclose. But Marina Burton has to step down from the zoning hearing board, and Samantha Grant has to step down from the planning commission. So although it's really a mere formality, but procedurally, we do ask the board to vote to accept the resignations, and certainly will begin posting some recruitment efforts on the township website and the marquee once it's working again. And we'll start seeking new interested candidates for these vacancies.
All right. Great, thank you. I'd like to make a motion to accept the resignations of Marina Burton and Samantha Grant. And before there's a second, I'd just like to thank them for volunteering for these roles, and you will be missed. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any public comment? Any board comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. Motion carries. All right, a few announcements. Tomorrow is Employee Appreciation Day, and we would like to thank all of you that work at the township for everything that you do. You are truly appreciated, and we all appreciate that. Few meetings. Sewer Authority meeting is on March 10th at 4:30 p.m. Human Relations Commission is March 12th at 6:30 p.m. Library Board, March 17th at 7 p.m. Environmental Advisory Council meeting, March 17th at 7 p.m. And Parks and Rec Board is March 18th at 7 p.m. Are there any other announcements from the board?
Yeah, I have a couple. At the Sewer Authority meeting, there was some discussion about an accident that occurred on Smith Road a while back. And as you're going with Ridge Pike at your back towards Germantown on Smith Road, when you pass the cutoff into that pump station for the Sewer Authority, downhill is a guardrail. Had there been a guardrail uphill of the entrance, the accident and destruction of some of the equipment there would not have occurred. So their ask was, and you might have already heard this, was can we put a guardrail in up there? So just something, for you folks all to think about. Is that a state? Is that one of our roads?
It is.
It is? Okay.
And I know that the Public Works Director has already met on site with the Sewer Authority
Awesome.
staff. They're
Yeah.
already working on. Yeah.
Great. Okay. Glad that's under control. And then I did notice something in the newsletter that came out. There had been some postings on Facebook about high taxes and things like that. And I had been doing a little analysis, and in general, like our costs have been going up with inflation pretty much. And I just bounced the numbers in the newsletter and did a couple of calculations. So in 2024, we approved $329,000 in new operating expenses against a budget of about $15.7 million. That's a 2% increase in operating costs for the township. Against inflation, it's running closer to 3%. So we're actually going below the rate of inflation. And I know when people get a small tax increase, it might seem small to some people, it might seem big, but we're doing everything we can, and the only place where we can adjust the taxes is in the property tax. But our operating expenses are going below the rate of inflation. And then, of course, we did also have extra $300,000 in debt service for the police station that was voted in last year, but I think that should be stabilized now. So I don't think we'll be expecting that. So hopefully in this budget cycle coming up, we'll keep it, at the rate of inflation or below, as we have been doing. That's all I wanted to say.
I didn't see any announcements with regard to zoning hearing board meetings.
Yes, so there's one coming up on March 24th, and I believe that's for
We would have the announcement for that on
the next meeting.
the next meeting.
Yeah.
So March 24th is the zoning hearing board for RHD specifically. And then the regular, is it the 27th? The regular monthly is the 27th.
Okay.
You're excited about those meetings, aren't you?
Yeah.
All righty. Okay, so now we come to the time of courtesy of the floor. We welcome residents to approach the podium and not to exceed 30 minutes per person. See, I'm tired.
We gave the fire chief 30 minutes, but that was a special exception.
Okay, let me start this over. 3 minutes per person, not to exceed 3 minutes per person, because 30 minutes we won't be here. So 3 minutes. Anyone?
Good evening. I'm Brian Earnshaw. I'm a resident of the township. Regarding the announcement of the meeting, that was one of my questions. So it sounds like you only list meetings through the next meeting of yours. So I would suggest something as important as the zoning hearing board regarding RHD that wants to bring a homeless shelter to the township. I would list them all on there. And I also noticed that there's also a meeting scheduled for March 25th that wasn't announced. And that meeting is also not on the township's website. The other three that are scheduled at this point. March 25th is missing. I was pleased to see two supervisors attended the Methacton board meeting last week. Supervisors Newfogleiss, but I pronounced your name correctly, thank you, and Supervisor Darby. It was great to see you there, but I think it was a missed opportunity. It was an opportunity for you to update the school community on two important things that are happening in the township. One, the desire for RHD to bring a homeless shelter to the community, which is within close proximity to 3 schools within Methacton School District. Great opportunity to discuss that, give them a status update, and let everybody know who may not watch these meetings what's going on there. Secondly, it would have been great to let them know, because I had let them know that the township was buying a building that's going to cause them to lose nearly $100,000 in annual tax revenue. So they're going to have to make that up, and we're all going to pay for that. So it would have been great to let them know that, give an update on timing and so forth, which I don't know, when they should expect to lose that revenue. Regarding the budget, I've spoken in the last 2 meetings about it. I went back and looked. Despite 2% increase, I don't know where that comes from, but the 2022 township tax increase was 12%, 23 was 14%, 2024 was 17%, and this year was 11%. Well above the inflation rates, even the ridiculous rates we saw in 2023. So it's clearly that something's going wrong here. If your expenses are like growing 2%, I'm not sure where the miss is. So there needs to be something done to control expenses further. During those years, at least a couple of them, I know there were probably 3 or 4 new positions added to the township staff. And so my couple questions are, one, I've commented that I think the supervisors need to direct the finance staff to start looking at areas now where expenses can be reduced. I think the township has a revenue problem, and you can't make up for your revenue problem by just increasing prices to all the township residents.
Mr. Earnshaw, you have 30 seconds left.
Thank you. Secondly, my question is, does the board give the finance staff direction regarding their budget goals? Like, do you go to them and say, this year, I want you to get to a 0% tax increase? Is that message given at all before the budget process starts? Or do they have a blank slate and just come with you and say, I need 15% more, I need 11% more? I think if not, that is a very common practice in developing budgets, and that's something that should be followed. And finally, at the last meeting, I had asked about the amount of money the township spent on the RHD matter.
Just go ahead and finish up
The
that one
township
question.
matter. I wonder if anybody had a chance to pull that together. I did see online somebody did the research on the list of bills and found like 40 to 50,000 of spending. I wonder if that's a close approximation or is that off? Thank you.
Any other courtesy of the floor? Okay, meeting adjourned.